Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello and welcome to the Radical Racing Challenge Strength of Field race for week 10 of the official series championship. We're here at Hockenheim circuit this evening, live on Apex Racing TV, to bring you all the action for this round of the series. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick. I am once again joined by Johan Karanis in the commentary box, with Jamie Fluke operating the cameras. And Johan, we visit another Grand Prix circuit, and dare I say, maybe one of the more simple circuits that these drivers will have to deal with this season. We have been to some super tricky circuits. Virginia stands out to me as the absolute most tricky. It's good to go to these slightly more slipstreamy circuits where I think the drivers should be able to get up to pace a bit quicker in these very tricky to drive cars.
I fully agree with you, Sam, and it's going to be a fun track to watch, but if I've learned anything with these radicals, nothing is as simple as it seems. The draft might be strong, but that is going to start challenging the drivers on a bit more of a strategic level. So it's going to be interesting to see what they're able to do. But yeah, expect some overtaking chaos, especially into, I think it's Spitz curve. So looking forward.
Yeah, should be a really good one. Yeah, we'll try to get the core names right. I'm not absolutely certain about all of them around this circuit, but yeah, I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of it as the race progresses. As we are currently in the qualifying session, of course, the drivers have a couple of laps that they are allowed to set, and then they will, of course, grid up for approximately a 25-minute race. It varies because it's distance kind of limited rather than time limited. Last time out, we saw another really tight battle, and yeah, are you expecting Johan to sort of be the front runner for this this round of the championship? Who do you think is going to have the form around this part of the season?
So of course, Ken Halliburton, the top-rated driver in the Strength of the Field race tonight, and he's been absolutely dominant in the car previously in the season. So he's a very good candidate to make a bit of an impact. But we have seen a few other drivers, if they are on form on the day, they can make a big impact in the racing. I expect the middle of the pack to maybe have a bit more action. It does seem like Halliburton's got a good grip on the car so far this season, but the middle of the pack is really kind of progressing into a very nice state where everyone's able to race very hard with the car for very long periods of time. Ooh, and unfortunately, Bell, they're slipping off the track. I think I've got the wrong car there in front of me, but yeah, so looking forward to seeing what that middle of the pack is able to do.
Yeah, and I say it every single week, and I know I'm a broken record, but it's a very tricky to drive car, and people are getting used to it, and we are going to see everyone get closer and closer as the season goes on, and I think that is what we've seen so far this season, and I think now that we're into the final 3 rounds of this opening season, remember this is the first season we've ever had the SR10, people are really starting to get the hang of these machines. As I will apologise, by the way, for the lack of on-screen graphics that we will have this evening. Just a couple of technical issues on our side, but we'll still try to bring you all the lap times. As still the drivers are putting in their second lap times right now. At least the majority of the drivers are. And of course, this is a fixed setup. Kind of events here, Johan, but I almost feel like this is one of those types of circuits that would be really useful if you could just practice the stadium section over and over again, because it's a very small parts of the lap, but it's sort of where all the lap time is, because, well, it's where all the corners are.
That's true. I think a good amount of practice will definitely benefit the drivers. I still believe a good overall knowledge of the track is going to be a bit more useful than maybe just being able to nail that section of the track from memory. I'm seeing a lot of drivers going very, very wide into some of the corners. I'm not sure what the tire temperatures are going to do tonight, so we'll keep an eye on them. But yeah, they've had enough practice during the season to really get a feel for the car, and hopefully they can apply that. I'm just not entirely sure whether. I mean, if we look at how often we go racing here at Hockenheim, it might be a bit of a challenge for some of these drivers. We might have someone in between that's maybe a bit of a hidden aficionado when it comes to the and I think that kind of knowledge translated from other cars might be a bit more beneficial than pure practice.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's always a little bit of a balance for these drivers. Yeah, would have raced this track in a lot of different cars. We always see it with the newer circuits, and I think we'll see it again as I've seen the number 10 car, Pablo Luves, I believe, just going a little bit wide at the Mercedes arena. Of course, everyone out on circuit, but on their own little circuits. They won't be able to see one another. And currently it's Florian von Minchwitz who is at the top of the stands. He is just rounding the final corner right now, as you can see him up on screen. And he is trying to extend that gap. Currently 1/100th of a second ahead of Kane Halliburton. Can he extend that? I don't think he was able to, but Halliburton has already set his second lap time, so there will not be an improvement for him. Rafael Blanco just moves up into third position, so very strong lap time from him. Nicola Sorini, I believe, has set both lap times and won't have time to complete the last lap time anyway. Still got a few more drivers to come up. Greg Salmons is currently in position number 6. He is the seed number 5 for this race. And he's probably the biggest hitter. But Florian van Minchwitz, we always like to see new drivers in the series. Johan, and wow, what an impression that he has made. Pole position, at least for now.
Yeah, it takes a lot to knock Halliburton off his little throne there at the top of the standings. So looking forward to seeing how that pans out in the start of the race. So 2 drivers in the 132s. And yeah, looking good for a nice fast start. We'll see what that run down into the first turn is going to be like.
Yeah, and it can be problematic as well. It's really, I mean, personally, I much prefer how it used to be, where it used to be a more long radius right-hander, which still had instance, I think, in 2000, I believe. The F1 race had quite a large impact in 2003 actually as well. I think that year, I think Raikkonen got involved. So it did used to have problems too, but I feel like it had less problems than this version, particularly on the sim racing world, because it's a pinch points. If there's ever been a pinch points, it is located at the apex of turn 1 at the Hockenheim ring. So going to be really tricky is that for these drivers of this race start. So I will go through the grid for you. Florian van Minchwitz is the car number 2. He starts on pole position tonight. Kane Halliburton lines up in second position. Remember, he's been the dominant driver so far this season. Then it is Rafael Blanco, Nacho Salas, Nicolas Sorini, Greg Salmons, Marcos Alcoron, Julian Martinez Pastor, Diego Aguirre Nera, Marix Ortlovs, Pablo Lopez, Abulkir Al-Amri, Marchis Putnieks, Emiliano Acho, Damien Guy, Marcus Nagel is in 16th position, and the last driver to set a qualifying time was Ivan Rumor. The drivers who did not set times were Michael Bell, Stefan Razakafidi, Sammy Bridges, Brian Drielsma, Eric Jajok, and Robert Williams. Michael Bell not setting a lap time, as I said before, starting in 18th place. He's the seed number 6. So expect him to gain a lot of places. Still a few holes on the grid. Do you think Halliburton is still going to win this one, or is Van Minchwitz going to be a tough opposition, you think, Johan?
I do think we might have a challenger on our hands. So, but don't discount Blanco sitting in third on the grid at the moment. I think he showed us that he's quite consistent in the past. So, looking forward to what he can do.
It should be a good one, this. And it's good to see a few familiar names as well. Abukir Al-Amri, driver in many ARL, or not necessarily ARL series, but ARTV series over the years. He will be part of the grid. Watch out for him as well. But the lights are about to come on then, and we are away racing here for this Hockenheim ring race. A poor start for the car number 7 in particular. Straight away Halliburton is going for the lead out ahead, and he has been able to take the lead immediately. I think the driver with the poor start was Nicholas Serini, who just did not get away, but there was many others well with poor starts. Oh, we've nearly got contact heading down to turn 1. Halliburton very early on the brakes, and it meant that Von Minchwitz just had to take evasive action, if anything, and Blanco is right in there as well. Apologies, that's Salaz in the middle, trying to move through past his drivers, and I think that is Blanco in the car number 8 just behind these drivers. Apologies, it's the car number 5 of Salmons who's trying to get involved. It's actually Blanco who's dropped down the order in these early stages. Halliburton is still the leader. Apologies, Von Minchwitz is, again, apologies, it's Salaz who is in the lead. The car number 4 at the moment ahead of Halliburton, and then comes the car number 2 of Von Minchwitz. There is a very ambitious overtake around the outside, but couldn't quite pull off right there as they get through the first half lap for the first time in this race. That was just I believe that was Rafael Blanco just dropping down a couple of places. Poor start for Blanco initially, then he was able to catch back up to the field, but he did lose a place again as Halliburton's looking very racy in P2.
I'm just going to say, one driver that's going to be extremely happy with that is going to be Salas. Absolute monstrous start, sailing past both Halliburton and Von Mitchwick. I mean, he set up the race quite nicely for himself. I mean, we weren't really expecting any kind of bravery from him in the start, and he's just made the best of it. So looking very solid there for him. A bit further down the field, so Salmons sitting in 4th, and Alarcon in 5th, so back to get a field. And I think everyone's just trying to get a field. There was a bit of a jostle at the start, some of the drivers falling back in the standings a little bit. And now it's calmed down. You can see everyone just in single file. And yeah.
Yeah, considering the craziness we saw into turn 6 on the opening lap, half surprised that there isn't a little bit more action at the moment. But, well, hopefully we keep this up, because we've got some very quick drivers near the front, and they are staying close to one another at the moment. So yeah, Blanco probably with the worst start of anyone, with 3 places lost right there. Yeah, so Rini, like I said, with a poor start. There was a driver on the grass. I might do some digging. I think it may have been Atcho or Guy, who yeah, was just on the grass almost before the green flag even went out, just because the drivers, a bunch of them, just got absolutely dreadful starts. It's not exactly a narrow front straight here as well, especially compared to some of the other front straights we visit across the season. So yeah, absolutely crazy was that race start. So we've got a little bit of a battle into Sachs corner at the moment. This is apologies, it is Bell behind Pastor and Ortlovs. A little bit of a poor start for Pastor. He's down a couple of places, but yeah, still ahead, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, this three-way battle for the lead is shaping up very nicely. You can see Halliburton kind of making advances, although he's made a few mistakes, and Von Mitchwick's already sitting behind him, ready to pick up the pieces. Salas, you can see his approach into corners being very as defensive as you want to be in the lead, but you can see there, Halliburton already with the draft closing down, looking down the inside. Is there going to be an opportunity? Hard on the brakes, get his nose ahead, side by side into the turn, and unfortunately, Salas not being able to really kind of take the pace down the outside. He's very lucky that Von Mitchwick didn't get past him. You can see Von Mitchwick kind of just sailing behind Halliburton, trying to get the overtake done. Oh, and this looking very spicy as Salas looking for another opportunity, very close on the rear of Halliburton. Unfortunately, no opportunity to do anything about it, but he's not going to let Halliburton drive off into the distance.
Yeah, no way. He's looking quick right now as Salas, but look at the way that Halliburton just extends the entrance to the stadium, just using all of that sort of green extra curbing that the drivers are allowed to use, and just enabling him to really shoot off and heading into Sachs corner. But the tow effect, whilst not being particularly strong in these cars, will help him out. That is Salas, of course. So we will see if he can stay within half second. He's currently 0.496 behind the race leader. So there might be possibilities for him to get close, and heading into turn 2 he is looking pretty competitive. So at the moment, by the way, the order is Halliburton, Salas, Von Minchwitz, Salmons, Alacron, Blanco, Sorini, Al-Amri, Pastor and Orlovs, rounding out the top 10 as it stands at this moment. Al-Amri with a little bit of a... actually, Al-Amri with an excellent start, so he's up 4 places. Just behind him, Orlovs has just got past, or defending, apologies, against Nera. I think Nera might be able to make this move. Apologies, as in fact it's very close for the race lead. Halliburton losing the race lead, and that is Salas back up to the front of the field. So the toe effect was strong enough to bring him back into play, and it is Salas after 3.5 laps who leads this race.
And just look at the front 5 cars in this pack, becoming 6 almost now. But you can see the draft keeping everyone together. So one single mistake and you're going to be absolutely obliterated in terms of your race position. So Halliburton, unlucky to lose that position. Salas trying to drive off into the distance, but the draft keeping everyone in touch with him. And there's absolutely no room for area between the drivers. So behind him, Von Mixwix and Salmons, Alarcon and Blanco. Sorini kind of on its own behind the rest of them. And then, yeah, so the number 8 car of Blanco is kind of breaking up the rear of that pack into the braking, so you can see all of them kind of just shoving together. I would not want to be in the middle of that. One single mistake from an opponent and your car is going to the pits. But yeah, I thought this was going to be in the middle of the pack, but it's a nice surprise to have it all playing out in the front of the pack. Now, Halliburton up on the air side. We saw this move in the previous lap, and is he going to be... Ooh, a little bit of contact there. That's Blanco off the track. As Salas unfortunately loses the position to Halliburton. Mixwick still in 3rd, and Blanco now in 6th, losing the position to Salmons.
Ooh, that's a big launch there from Salas. Can he manage to pull it off? He's going to at least pull Halliburton offline. Now, will he be willing to check his end? There is a big curb on the outside. Halliburton affords him some room, and Halliburton does keep the lead then, but it was a bit of a late move there from Salas. I think he may have let out of the brake slightly just on the approach to the corner, and again, he uses that characteristic early turn-in for a Saxon corner. He really seems to like that one, does the now race leader, the car number 4, but Halliburton once again pulls away, but we saw earlier on it wasn't enough to be able to break the draft. Albeit he's absolutely nailed this couple of cars. I do think Halliburton's the fastest driver, albeit of course Von Minchwitz is yet to really have any clean air in this race, as Von Minchwitz is extremely close as well, still in that P3. So it's the car number 1 of Halliburton leading the way, Salas car number 4, Von Minchwitz car number 2, and Alacron up into 4th position now. He is the car number 3, so doing slightly better than what his his seeding would suggest. And Blanco, of course, just completely missed the braking point, it seemed, on the previous lap and wiped out at least one car and caused a bit of confusion in front of him, as here comes Salas. He is late on the brakes. Oh, Halliburton has to turn out of the corner in order to avoid him there. Salas trying to defend from the cars behind, just missed his braking point again, and Halliburton will be getting a little bit frustrated now in that Radical SR10. He does have the inside line for the Mercedes Arena, but we've seen Halliburton a bit cautious on the brakes so far into this corner. He does keep the lead. Now is Alacron going to be able to get past into P3 past Von Minchwitz? They are going to be alongside heading into the stadium section.
This is just absolute beautiful racing. So you can see the number 2 car of Von Minchwitz just trying to poke his nose in. Unfortunately, he had to back out, but lots of opportunities to be had there. Salmons in the number 5 car as well. Sorry, Salmons, yeah, in the number 5 car as well.
What's happened to Halliburton? Oh, he's spun round, and Halliburton is not going to win this race.
Well, that's maybe a little bit early to say, but that has definitely hurt his chances immensely. We'll see if we can maybe give you a replay for that, but unfortunately, I think it was a spin, just costing him a bit of time. Ooh.
So I looked back at it, and he just got a little bit too much on the blue curb on the outside, just dismounted it a little bit poorly, and that is how he spun round. Maybe he could still win. Maybe I was a little bit early to rule him out, but he's down to 9th position and trying to make his way through the order. That is the car number 13 of Abdelkir Al-Amri, who he is swishing left and right to try to get past. Just ahead of them, I think that is Pastor. In the car number 9 is Pastor, so apologies, Pastor is just behind them. Oh, that's a big dive. That was Salmons past Serini, so Serini also getting a little bit shuffled down the order, and yeah, absolutely all going on. But currently at the top of this pack then is Salmons in the car number 5.
Yeah, and I think the person that's going to be smiling about this is going to be Salas. Also, although we can say that Von Mitwix might be biding his time in that second position, just hiding until the... Ooh, and number 13 just going straight off the track there. So yeah, we'll keep an eye and see how everyone's doing, but possible strategic battle for the front of the grid.
Yeah, they could will be just waiting behind one another. I mean, they need to work together now in order to not give Halliburton an opportunity to win this race. But look at the gap down that Salas has got, really pulling away on that lap. Maybe he was driving tactically against Halliburton. And he is now 7/10 of a second clear. Now, the draft effect isn't too big in this car. However, we've seen the draft effect very strong tonight. So maybe there is going to be a little bit of help for these drivers, hopefully. Certainly the car number 2 of Von Minchwitz will be hoping for that. Also hoping for that will be Halliburton, because he's got another car lined up. Next up is Nicola Sorini, who of course was near the front earlier on. And then after that it is Salmon. So not much progress being made in the second half of the previous lap for Halliburton, but dare I say he's going to make a move into turn 6 here.
And Halliburton once again up the inside of car number 7. So Serini they're under pressure or getting overtaken by Halliburton. Next up the line for Halliburton is going to be Salmons. So let's see what Salmons is able to do. He's being followed very closely. Halliburton up the inside. Salmons still able to keep ahead, but just look at that exit speed from Halliburton as he sticks right underneath the rear wing of Salmons. Serini kind of losing sight of them a little bit, although I'm speaking in very relative terms here, as he's just in no man's land. If there's another mistake from Halliburton or Salmons, he's going to be there to pick up the pieces, but so is 3 other cars behind him. So the number 9 car of Pastor and number 13 of Al Amri, both looking for opportunity there as well.
Yeah, they're looking quick. Are those couple of drivers? And so yeah, if you're not attacking, you are defending. I think is the case right now. Halliburton is losing time to the leaders, by the way. So he was 2.3 seconds behind after his spin. He's now up to 4 seconds behind. So he's really trying to get past, or really trying to get past in order to stop losing time, obviously. But yeah, even though he doesn't seem to be held up too much, has been costing him now, though he is going to be able to get past Greg Salmons. And the C parts for him, he's got some clean air now. Next up, Blanco. He's probably got damage after that huge lunge earlier on. Made contact with a driver who I'm not entirely sure. It could have been Salmons, I'm not 100% sure. I think Alex certainly wasn't Alacon, because he was able to benefit from that one. But Halliburton, the car number 1, up into P5 now, and has got some gap to make up. And then it's Blanco, the car number 8. Alacon, the driver who started in 7th position, car number 3, currently in P3. Von Minchwitz, car number 2, in P2. And Salas, who has lost that lead, is down to nothing. He is the car number 4, leading the way.
The one interesting thing of note is just to see that, I mean, Halliburton has been climbing the ranks at an absolute monstrous pace, but you can see that big gap between himself and Blanco. I think that's going to be a bit of a challenge to overcome. The draft is very useful to hold everyone together, but once you've got clean air in front of you, it becomes very difficult. And Von Mixfix looking for opportunity on the inside, doesn't find it, and now Alicorn looking for opportunity. You can see him almost bump drafting as they go down the track on the inside. And Alarcon getting the position, but still side by side. There is an opportunity for Von Mixfix to fight back here. They go very deep on the inside, return to the racing line, and that is going to be positioned to Alarcon. A bit of a sneaky overtake there, but capitalizing on that mistake made by Von Mixfix.
Really good drive this from Alarcon. I didn't think he was going to be rivaling them at the front in this race. He just had that solid start, didn't he? Whilst a couple of other drivers had poor starts, he had a solid start which put him up a couple of places, and then he's just been kind of slowly making his way through, but he's had the pace as well. I mean, it's not been easy for him. He's needed the pace in order to make these overtakes, and he's up into second position right now. It's the car number 3. And I think really any of these guys could win. Blanco, I'm amazed that Blanco is still in play after that contact that he made earlier on. Again, apologies, I'm not sure who he made contact with, but it was heavy contact, and I'm surprised in these fairly bitter cars that he wasn't wiped out. And look at Halliburton as well, the car number 1. He is chasing these drivers down. Yeah, on that last lap, I think he gains over half a second on these front guys. And well, why did I say that he wasn't going to win this race, Johan, when it was so obvious that he had a very good chance still?
Yeah, I mean, you might have been a bit quick on the trigger, but I mean, it was a very big mistake, so it's to be expected. But the fighting has slowed everyone down. I thought it was the draft keeping everyone together, but I think, yeah, that fighting very much detrimental to the front runners in the pack. And now Halliburton has caught up with everyone. So you can see Blanco pretty much under pressure now with that number 1 car of Halliburton just looming in the background. And Blanco visibly stepping up the pace. You can see his pressure. He is thinking about that number 1 behind him, and doing very well to kind of keep up the pace.
Yeah, that was a bit of contact there between second and third position. And Blanco just lifted off to let past Halliburton.
That's an interesting one.
It's it's an interesting. It's an interesting move. But maybe he just wants to send him off and maybe hope for some instants ahead. As a bit slow all of a sudden is the car number 4 of Salas, and Alarcon is running away with this one. Absolutely incredible pace right now from our now race leader, and he has got a brilliant chance to look at the switchback there from Minchwitz, who has just been in traffic for this entire race. Well, this is the most amount of clean air he's had the whole time, but can he hold on to it? Because they are not giving up behind. There is Halliburton. He might have the best chance of anyone here because he's got the draft and he's going to be able to carry that momentum, will surely get his nose ahead, and he's got the inside line. And if they go 3 wide, then the driver on the outside is going to have absolutely zero chance. The car number 2 there of Von Minchwitz, surely he cannot win out on this one. He's got to leave so much space in this scenario, and he does leave a lot of space. He loses the rear end. Halliburton now leads in this pack, and once again the battle between Salas and Von Minchwitz renews. And, well, we wait to see who can come out on top. Car number 2 versus car number 4. Super close there. But now it's going to be Salas who is ahead. So, yeah, a couple of iffy corners right there for Von Minchwitz. And still, he just cannot get through these cars. Yeah, Hannah, whilst Halliburton and Alarcon have been able to move their way through, he has not. But now he does. The car number 4 runs wide, and Salas drops to alongside Blanco.
Yeah, so Salas in the number 4 car clearly struggling with the temperature of the tires at the moment. Just a note, we are busy with Alarcon starting on the 13th lap of 15 laps, so this race very close to the end, and I think Salas is starting to feel that on the tires. You can see the car just bumping and moving as he's coming out of the turn, so he's holding on for dear life. Further ahead, Alarcon stepping up the pace a little bit. Previous lap a 1:33.03 and Halliburton with a 1:33.25, so that gap growing slightly. Can't say for this lap, but he is definitely trying for it. Meanwhile, Salmons, car number 5, heavy under pressure. Unfortunately, he's got Pastor up on his insides. And there's contact.
and that was the car number 7 of Serini who made contact, and now Serini makes contact also with Nira right there, who thought that Christus may have come early and wasn't quite able to get past, but yeah, I may have a quick look back at that incident, and yeah, just the car number 7 of Serini maybe a little bit early on the power, whilst a couple of cars in front of him were slow, and yeah, that was probably Serini's fault on that occasion, so shame to see their races be compromised on that occasion. Yeah, and so yeah, moving on to the penultimate lap now. And can Halliburton catch up to Alcaron? The battle on that last, sorry, the gap on the at the end of the previous lap was 1.4 seconds. It's down to 0.8 of a second. Halliburton is closing.
That's good on Halliburton's party here. Interesting little fact, both Halliburton and Salos on the same positions they started on. So it's an interesting little development for the race. Alarcon in the front, however, 6 positions gained. that's immense for this race. So doing a superb job. But now this three-way battle with Salas right in the middle. Von Mikvich under pressure as Salas looks towards the insides, gets cut off. That's a little bit of a finger wag, if you ask me. But he's able to hold on to the position. Very, very hard defending going on here in the last few laps of the race.
Well, the pace that Halliburton's got this evening, I mean, a little bit like Imola. Could he do another last lap overtake? I mean, it'd be absolutely insane if he could. Those who weren't around last week, he had a spin at one point, did Halliburton, tried to go around the outside 3 times at the Tamburello chicane, and on the last attempt, on the last lap, oh no, and that's round. Halliburton makes contact, and who is going to take advantage of this one? Is Halliburton able to keep the lead? No, he's got damage, and instead into P2. Oh, there's another spin now. That's Salah's round. Blanco was able to get through, and out of all of that, the man who has struggled this entire race to get through the order, it is Von Minchwitz who leads with 1 lap to go at Hockenheim. Absolutely craziness on this penultimate lap of the race. And the man who had the pace throughout, honestly, but has not been able to put it onto paper so far, leads this race. But Blanco is catching up to him as we head into the final 2/3 of a lap in this Hockenheim event.
Yeah, and so we have taken the white flag, 8/10, 7/10 between Blanco and Mikvich. This is going to come down to the absolute wire. But yeah, I do think some drivers do despise Hockenheim to some degree, and I think it might have just gotten a new driver with it. Salas trying to hold on to for position. He's got Serini, number 7, behind him for company. Then car number 15, that's going to be Naira, and just a very tough race to watch. Salas has regained the 4th position. Oh, and a little bit of bump there. That's going to be Serini falling back. Good recovery there, keeping control of the car. And behind them, Alarcon all the way down into 6th position.
Absolutely gutsing for Alarcon there. He's still battling away. That's in the lead in probably the closest race we've had all season. Really good stuff. It's what we've been promised this entire season. And it's going to be a surprise race winner. Florian von Minchwitz with an incredible final lap and a half wins at Hockenheim. He would not have been expecting that. No doubt he deserved it. But man, what's a finish to that race. Blanco finishes in P2 after that huge contact earlier on. And Blanco manages to finish in that position. We've got side by side right at the line. Who was that? That was Putnieks ahead of Halliburton, who had significant damage at the end. I think he lost 15 seconds on that last lap alone. Did Halliburton, absolutely limping across the line. I think his worst results of the season in a race where, once again, maybe he made the ordeal a little bit tricky for himself, but in the end it was just bad luck to be involved when Alarcon made the mistake in front of him. And, well, I think that's one of the most dramatic moments we've had on Apex Racing TV all season, Johan. We had the top 2 wiping each other out. I think maybe even the top 3 wiping each other out on the penultimate lap of the race. And, yeah, it produced a very surprising winner in the end.
That is racing for you, or basically in a nutshell. But yeah, very dramatic stuff. I do have to ask you, Sam, that prediction on Blanco, I mean, in the start of the race, he didn't win, but I mean, second place is still extremely good. If I'm being honest, a few laps into the race, I did not expect him to finish up this high. He's done very well for himself.
Yeah, he had good pace. I've been speculating for this entire race about who he hit at the hairpin. Okay, so I think I found. So he hit. Okay, so I was right earlier on. So I mentioned that he hit Salmons earlier on. I'm just trying to look back at the replay. So to be fair, actually, the contact that Blanco made with Salmons was nearly into his rear left corner, but actually it sort of hit his sort of his number plate on the left side of the car, and that sort of avoided getting too much damage. I think Salmons, I think, probably did get some damage from that one because his pace seemed to fall away in the second half of that race after that contact. But yeah, Blanco incredible because yeah, when I saw him trying to play bowling balls down into the turn 6 hairpin midway through the race, I thought that would be curtains for him, but there he is on the second step of the podium. He was second, like I said, von Minchwitz in the race winners circle in the end. Julian Martinez Pastor, we didn't really talk about Pastor. He was sort of in that second group for most of the race, but he really got himself into play right at the end. And the man, he started in P8, finishing on the final step of the podium. Then it was Nacho Salas, Marchos Alocon in 5th position, just ahead of Diego Aguayo Nira. Then it was Greg Salmons, Abulkir Al-Amri was in 8th position. Then it was Marcus Putnieks, Kane Halliburton, Marcus Nagel, Michael Bell, Marek Ortlos, Nicola Sorini, Brian Jaelsma, Stefan Razakafidi, Eric Jajok, Sammy Bridges, Damien Gee, Pablo Loves, Ivan Rumel, Robert Williams, and Emiliano Acho. And I might have a look back at the race start as well to see when was it Acho who went off the track right at the start. Oh, hopefully we'll get some interviews, but I'm just picking this up. Oh no, it wasn't. So the driver who went off the circuit, and I know this is fairly redundant, I'm not sure if too many people care, but it was Damien Gee who literally went off the circuit immediately in the race. I think a hardware failure for Gee perhaps was the reason for that one. So at the moment we don't have any drivers in our interview waiting area, which is a little bit of a surprise. But Johan, certainly a surprise for me, I think, from this race and Imola. I don't think there's been any changes to the SR10 machine. But this is a slipstreaming car, I think we can say. I mean, the pack racing we saw tonight, Imola as well, it was very strong, particularly in the second half of the straight, it seemed. So, of the front straight, I mean by that. So I'm a little bit surprised by maybe the racing that we're going to get in this car, because I think in the early rounds I thought, okay, this is not going to be a particularly heavy slipstream car, but I think when you've got a field relatively close to one another in pace and a Grand Prix circuit, I think it's this pack racing that we're going to come to expect.
I'm going to have a bit of a controversial opinion, and that is currently, if we look at the front of the pack here, it's a little bit more exciting than the Formula 1 races. And I say that while being a Formula 1 fan. I mean, these guys are all together. There's chaos at moments. There's overtakes. There's vying for position. And it's all happening with 5 to 6 cars in close proximity to one another. I'm enjoying this season. I don't know if it's... I think the racing is a little bit of an improvement over the SR8. I mean, I love that car, but just in terms of the the pure visuals we're getting out of this season, it seems like it's very exciting for the viewer. The audience will have to say if it's as exciting for them as it is for me. Just a quick thing that I noticed that we maybe left behind with all of this pack racing going on. I just want to quickly say thank you to a few of our sponsors. So big thanks to Virtual Racing School. You can use them to improve your on-track performance with their 50+ data packs for road and oval racing. They've also got setups, track guides, and very importantly, their data analysis software. They've also got one-on-one coaching if you so desire. And tying in with them, Apex Racing Academy, who also have some data packs of their own. So they've got 29 data packs created by the ARA Academy professional drivers. They've got setups, track guides, of course, integration with VRS, and then the thing that I enjoyed the most of them, they've got their weekly group coaching sessions and a few little extra bits. So do check them out if you want to improve your racing. I must say though, these drivers tonight really, wheel-to-wheel racing. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I mean, certainly more interesting than Formula 1. I don't think there's any doubt about that one. So, yeah, that was pretty mega out there that we saw tonight. And, yeah, really want this to continue further down the road when we visit the final couple of races this season. And then, yeah, hopefully, of course, the racing will be good as well next season. And, of course, good to see so many drivers take part in this Strength of Field event. 45 cars taking part or signing up for this race, and yeah, it's good to see very strong numbers. Next up, Johan, we are visiting Alton Park. It is the international now with no chicane, so it's the big circuit, but with neither chicane, which in my opinion is the best layout. I don't really like either set of chicanes at that circuit, if I'm totally honest. I think either are good at racing, good for racing. Any turbulent air around that circuit makes overtaking impossible. I mean, I was saying how, oh yeah, the slipstream effect is really strong in this car. I mean, it's not that strong. It is going to be tricky to overtake that circuit, and quite a contrast to the couple of, 3 Grand Prix circuits that we visited in the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be a different type of challenge. I'm actually a bit of a fan of the chicanes, but that's maybe because I actually get a chance to catch up with people then. Just looking at the layout, I just didn't want to get this corner name wrong.
Knickerbock? Is that the one?
No, Lodge Corner. So corner on Alton Park, it's a heavy braking zone. The corner tightens, it goes downhill. Well, your race also goes downhill if you get the corner wrong. We might see some overtaking just due to mistakes being made by the drivers. I think the tyres might be struggling a little bit. We might have to pull in Jamie to maybe get his opinion on what the tyres are exactly doing, because I'm at a bit of a loss here. I've not been able to do much with them over the season. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a very valid point where a lot of the on-track overtakes that you have at Alton Park are typically through mistakes. Even in a lot of the smaller cars with a much lower power to weight ratio, tend to struggle to get side by side. Now, the run from the hairpin down at the bottom end of the track, the name of the hills escaping right now, all the way through towards Knickerbock is that's quite a substantial run. So we might see some overtaking there, but a lot of the previous corners are high-speed corners, so from the start of the lap all the way through to that point, it's almost all high-speed corners. So if you can stay tight to the car ahead, overtaking is definitely possible, it's definitely doable. But there are a lot of challenges in staying tight, especially so with what experience I do have in this car. I do have it around that track and that particular layout. The understeer in the first few laps might spread the field apart a little bit. So, it makes it that much more challenging for overtakes to happen. But as we've seen over the course of the season, that hasn't stopped guys from making really, really good moves, really good overtakes, and hasn't stopped people from making some mistakes as well, which has brought opportunities along. So, There's a lot that can still happen in these races. It's not just going to be a qualifying shootout and whoever sticks it on pole will win the race. But yeah, it's not easy to overtake, but there will be options.
We saw a couple of times, Jamie, tonight. I'm not sure if you saw the Halliburton one, but I think you saw the Alacon kind of slide on the exit of Sachs Corner on the blue and white curb. That sort of reminded me a bit of like the Suzuka issues that we had in the GT3 Trophy on Tuesday. Is that curb very similar to the Suzuka, or is it a bit different, and it's actually a different kind of problem which was affecting our drivers out here?
It's a very similar problem. It's not so much the actual curb itself, but there's like a severe drop from the curb back down onto the like green curbing on the outside there, and that unloads the left side tires and heavily loads the right side tires. So sort of pivot onto the right rear, it spins up, and then with this car, as soon as you light up the rear tires, it seems like it's very difficult to hang onto it. So we did see, yes, a couple of issues there. It's one of those where, as I mentioned to the guys who were commentating on the GT Trophy race, either you've got to fully commit to that outside curb and push nice and wide, and you'll be okay, or don't entertain it at all. Pick your poison, but don't hesitate either way. And I think we've seen that this evening with a couple of drivers, and it cost all of them quite substantially.
And then looking to the rest of the schedule with everything that's coming up, of course, week number 12, so after Alton Park, it's going to be the classic Nürburgring. Now, we know that the SR8 was a very well-suited car to the Nordschleife, but what do you guys foresee with this new SR10 going to the old SR8 stomping grounds? Because it's a very long lap. A lot of time in the lap is being spent at full throttle, and especially with that very, very long straight down at the end, and this car proving that it's very capable in drafting conditions. Possibly a very interesting and a very strategic race coming up for the end of the season.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be quite strategic, because because you've got the Dottinger High, and you've got a few kind of longer straights. And I would say, I don't know what you think, Jane, but I think it might be a little bit easier to drive than in the SR8, because I feel like there's going to be so many corners where you're just making sure that you're not understeering straight on. Whereas at the Nordschleife, for me at least, it's always the rear end with the elevation change you get there. The sort of change in sort of where the weight is on the car can be really tricky. I feel like if you can kind of get the car turns or the SR10 turn, then that's sort of your main worry when it comes to the Nordschleife. So I can see it being a bit more accessible, maybe not as intense, I think, for the drivers. It might not be quite as quick lap times, but I think it will probably be a little bit more easy for the drivers, a few less mistakes, I think.
Yeah, inclined to agree. One upside, or what I've noticed over the years, having done probably thousands of laps now, the Nordschleife on iRacing, is that the grip off the track surface on the Nordschleife layout versus the GP layout is significantly higher. So you tend to have a little bit more front grip, turn in, and the car will actually go where you want it to go, which is a little bit of a problem with the SR10, particularly on the opening lap or two, probably off that circuit. So it probably makes it a much more enjoyable driving experience. However, once you get to the final lap of the race, what kind of rear tires do you have left? Have you saved the tires sufficiently so that you can maybe make break for it before the Dottinger on that final lap? So yeah, it brings quite a few challenges on board, and definitely some strategy as part of it. The slipstream, as we've seen at points this season, should, in theory, keep people fairly close together, but also the Nordschleife is the highest skill gap track probably on the service. So if you're really good around there, maybe you'll be able to break for it.
So yeah, definitely looking forward to that race. Just looking at the schedule up ahead, so unfortunately that is going to be most of it for us tonight. But upcoming races. So we've got the Ace Tech Sim Sports GT Challenge. That is going to be at Branch Hatch, happening on the 20th. So that is going to be tomorrow evening. Then we've got Formula 3 Champion 3.5 Championship at Spa-Francorchamps, also on the 20th. Same evening as the GT one, so definitely worth watch. SRF Weekend Warriors is going to Monza on the 21st. Then we've got RGP Fun F3. They are going to be in Montreal. Definitely going to be an interesting race for those cars. That is happening on the 21st. Then on the 22nd, the iRacing Israel League is heading to Road Atlanta. Definitely bound to be a fun race. RL GT3 Trophy is going to Road America on the 23rd. And the Porsche Cup, round 6 at Imola on the 24th. So lots of interesting racing coming up this weekend and the following week, so do check that out. If you want to keep tabs on what Apex Racing TV is doing, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, of course here on YouTube and Instagram. So do check out the social media channels if you want to keep up with things. And yeah, Sam, I think that is everything we have for tonight.
Yeah, I think so. So, yeah, of course, do tune in next week when we go to Alton Park. Should be a really good event, that one. One of the drivers, I think a few of the drivers will really enjoy that circuit. And we should get good participation, of course, as well, free circuit. So, always a lot of participants for that. So, hopefully, we'll see a strong strength of field when it comes to that Alton Park round of the championship. But yeah, make sure to tune in next week. But for now, from myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Johan Kainas, and from Jamie Fluke, we are going to say goodbye, and we'll see you in 1 week's time at Alton Park. See you then.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.